Welcome to the Trading Sliders Podcast. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Episode number 13 of the Trading Sliders Podcast. How's everybody doing? I'm Bobby Puckett. Sitting next to me today is not Kurt the Flash Minute. He's doing some Christmas obligations with the family. I'm flying solo. As you guys can tell from my voice, I'm a little bit raspy. I've had a cold for about a week now. So, two things. A, I didn't want Flash to come over here and get sick the week before Christmas. And B, he had some stuff going on with his family this weekend, so I'm flying solo. Guys, I apologize, like I said, for my raspy voice. But it is Christmas week, so I'm trying my best to get healthy so we can spend time with the family. But very Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Episode number 13 this week. On this week's Deep Dives, we have Ricky Lewis. Flash and I sat down with him a couple weeks ago, the most winningest sprint car driver in the country. 25 feature wins this year for Ricky Lewis, kid out of Camarillo, California. That he about 4 years ago, he followed his dream, followed his heart, and we call it the Jeff Gordon effect. He moved to the Midwest, and he's going to make it in the racing world. And really fascinating story. When you guys listen to this interview, you're going to, for people that don't know who Ricky Lewis is, he's a kid that's just pure hard work, talent, and sacrifices a lot to try to, live his dream. And, that's really appreciated on our end. Excuse me. And speaking of things, appreciated on our end, like I said, this is Christmas week, and Merry Christmas to everybody out there. I hope you guys, spend time with your families, and, I hope you guys really, really enjoy that. And one other thing I want to say, like I said, this is going to be short on my end, but to all the fans out there that's reached out and support the show, thank you from the bottom of our heart. Me and Kurt, we say this every week. We are shocked, absolutely shocked beyond words that, you guys want to hear us bullshit about racing every week. But, to the people that reached out, from just like the guys on our first show, until like last week, I had some guys from California reach out and want to meet up at the Chili Bowl. And it's just, there's so many stories out there of stuff like that. And, we really, really appreciate it. We really do. It's it's humbling, to say the least. You guys will reach out, and you enjoy the show, and like I said, that means the world to us. It really does. We never in a million years thought when we started doing this that this is how it was going to be. That people were going to be like messaging us, "Hey, when's the next episode coming out?" Like, we had technical difficulties a few weeks ago, and this is no exaggeration. I bet I had 150 people messaging me when our video, our Spotify link wasn't up on Monday morning, because people know that every Monday we're going to be out. And I had so many people who's reached out and messaged me, "Hey, something wrong? You guys not doing a show this week?" And that's like I said, that's real humbling. But thank you guys, and to the guys that sponsored the show, thank you for that as well. We really appreciate it. Like I said, this is gonna be short and sweet because my voice is raspy, and you guys don't want to hear me just ramble on with a scratchy voice. One thing that I do want to get into though, before we get into our deep dive interview, is it's indoor season. It's time to do the damn thing. Time we race indoors. Last week we had the Knipper, and Carter Scharf took the win in that. But this weekend coming up, Friday and Saturday, if you guys are in the Indianapolis area, make the short drive up to Fort Wayne, the Allen County Fieldhouse, the Rumble in Fort Wayne. I think this is something like 35 years that this event's been going on, the Rumble in Fort Wayne. I've been probably to 7 or 8 of them. Excuse me, sorry. I've been to probably 7 or 8 of them. Really, really neat event. It's basically for people that's never been there. If you've been to the Indianapolis Speedrome and you've watched midgets race at the Speedrome, that's what the Rumble in Fort Wayne event is. It's flat, it's rough and tumble, gouging, move people out of the way. But it's a really neat event. And then starting next week, kick off his driller season, the Tulsa Shootout, and then followed by the granddaddy of them all, the Chili Boat. So really looking forward to these events. I'm going to keep up with the Tulsa Shootout on Flow. We say this every week, but Flow, Dirt Vision, Race on Texas, all those. Guys, we're a big supporter of streaming events because there's people like us that can watch racing year round, purchasing Flow. It's $150 a year, and it's a really, really cool event. But the Tulsa Shootout will be on Flow. And then this year, my wife and I's first time in a few years, but we're going back to the Chili Bowl. I'm really looking forward to this event. The Chili Bowl is it's one of those events that once you go, you always want to go back, but it's kind of hard to justify it all the time because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for the race teams, but it's a lot of work for the race fans as well. I mean, it's 6 consecutive nights of racing. Except for us, it's about a 12-hour drive out there, but 6 consecutive nights. So when people locally, like when they go to Fun Fest or the 3-hour weekend or the Jackson 100 weekend, say, man, it was a lot of fun, but after 3 nights, I'm ready to just get back home. Well, the Chili Bowl is 6 consecutive nights of that, so it's a little bit of work, but it's a whole lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to it. Guys, like I said, Merry Christmas, and enjoy this week's deep dives with Ricky Lewis. It's time for the Trading Sliders Deep Dives presented by Kentucky Clutch and Performance. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. On this week's Deep Dive, we have the winningest sprint car driver in the country, Ricky Lewis. Ricky Lewis, thanks for coming on the show. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Just got back from PRI and enjoying some time off.
Cool. This guy don't get much time off. I think he raced 76, 77 times last year.
Yeah, well, probably in the 80s, close to 90s with the midget stuff.
Yeah, well, I seen last year when I seen an interview. You said you was trying to get to 100, so you just quite missed it, huh?
Yeah, I mean we probably had 104, 105 on the schedule, but with rainouts and things happening, just didn't work out. But I'd love to hit 100 one of these days. I think our future's looking better to do some wing stuff also, and obviously with a full non-wing schedule.
Right. Well, see, for the guys that don't know, first off, if you don't know who Ricky Lewis is, you've been living under a rock the last 3 or 4 years. But he's a 2-time defending Bosch champion. 2 years ago, he won right close to 20 feature wins, 18 feature wins. This year, he won 25. And I was at a couple of your feature wins this year. The one that really, really impressed me, the night at Florence Speedway.
Yeah, that was a blast.
Yeah, you was ripping the top, and the track had a little bit of character, and they had wing cars there that night. So
yeah,
the track slowed down, and I thought for sure. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I kind of thought, well, hey, he's not gonna be that good tonight because you're more of a character kind of,
Yeah.
Get on the car and let's go race. Yeah. And that night you had to kind of wait on the car a little bit, but that was a hell of a race.
I've learned to like these slick places, especially when it gets up around the fence. Like that's my jam, right? And I had ran Florence the year before, and it was like idle around the bottom. It really wasn't a whole lot of fun. And this year I was like, man, I feel like if I could just get tight enough, I can make speed around the top. And that's what happened. And the bottom was good at the beginning, and then obviously 10 laps to go or so that I was able to keep my momentum up around the top and get by. I think it was Ryland to win the race.
Yeah. Probably one of my favorite interviews of the year because you do your pat and donuts. You're cutting donuts, got the syrup, and they're bitching at you when you come off, and you're like, it's coming,
Yeah.
So that was probably one of my favorite interviews of the year.
Yeah, he comes up and yells at me, and the race director actually he came and apologized for his guy, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it's his son-in-law or something like that. But yeah, he was pretty fired up about it. I'm like, I told you guys I even did an extra lap so you could move out of the way.
Everybody get out of the way. Move out of the way, boys. It's coming.
I'm not dumb. I know even when they get going pretty quick, you could still see what's going on. You get close to something, you just get out of gas. Like, it wasn't like I was gonna take anyone out.
Yeah, he had it all under control. He was standing on the gas and the steering wheel out of the car. Yeah, everything was under control right there.
Yeah,
nothing to worry about, guys.
Yeah,
don't worry about the chubby photographer on the front stretch. Just get out of the way.
I'll tell you, like the trickiest ones that I always worried too, because I knew if I won Ventura, it was gonna be tough. Because I would want to do donuts, right? And that place is so tight. Like you have to do it on a dime.
And it's always hooked up too, especially the straightaway.
Yeah, but I mean, Turkey Night with having 100-something cars there, it was pretty well slicked off down the straightaways for that event, right? I mean, usually Ventura's pretty good, but so I was actually nervous, but I was willing to crash it in the front stretch fence if I had. Oh yeah, it was Turkey Night. Like I was willing to crash.
Well, that's where I was going to segue into this. Turkey Night Grand Prix. You grew up going to Ventura Raceway, and you've won some big non-winning sprint car races. But winning Turkey Night was cool.
We won the Jack Hewitt Classic.
Oh, yeah, I know you won that at Waynesfield.
The Hockett.
Yes. Yeah. So you've won some big non-winning sprint car races, but when you won Turkey Night, you could just tell, okay, I'm good for the year. I won 25 races, but I'm really only wanting to win one.
I'm not even sure if a USAC win would compare to that. I don't know. I guess it's going to have to happen to see. I mean, it will because we have worked so hard, probably my entire life to get to that. But Turkey Night was just special because everybody was there. Obviously, it's funny because a couple years, Turkey Night was a rough race all the way around, and not just with me, with other guys. There was a lot of
people pissed off at Macedo. You were good.
I might have took a little bit of the heat off Macedo, but anyway. So 2 years ago, we ran the Hewitt, and I had slid a guy for I think it was second or whatever. There's 8 laps to go, and he kind of runs himself off the track. Now that one, to this day, he had an option, right? I slid him and he tried to drive around it and he just got out of the gas and slid off the racetrack. Well, he comes back around and goes and runs into Landon Simon. I'm sure you saw the video. Runs into Landon Simon, the wrong car. I was the one that slid him, and he goes and runs and puts his nose in Landon's cage. And anyways, that guy was hometown guy, right? Won championships there. So the crowd was booing me, and then I slid Luke Hall for the win on the last lap, and that was clean, right? Obviously he had to get out of the gas, but it was clean. We didn't touch. I mean, and then he slides me back. I drive around it and win the race. And I'm not kidding you. I needed bodyguards to get out of that place.
Hey, we've been there.
Not only did you need bodyguards, you needed directions because it's hell to get out of that place if nobody's pissed at you.
Out of Waynesfield?
Yes.
Yeah. So the whole crowd boos me, right? I just quit talking on the mic. I mean, you guys don't even want to hear me talk. And but at Ventura, being my home track, I mean, I've never heard so many cheers, right? It's just funny how that works. You do something, out of your facility, right, or out of your place, and you're the biggest POS around, right? But then you do it at your home track, and the whole crowd loves it, right?
Well, that's all part of it. Our podcast name is Trading Sliders. That's what's fascinating about racing. But like you said, the guy had to get out of the throttle. Well, if you throw a slide job and the guy doesn't have to get out of the throttle, all you did was waste your equipment and lose, 10 car lengths because he's going to drive back around you. That's why a slider's supposed to happen. You're supposed to make him check of it.
Yeah.
Now, back in the day, T-Mez over here at Kokomo, he would throw sliders and brake check them as he slid up in front of them. So he would really make sure that
make sure he got to run off the corner of them.
I think that's where the slider die mentality came from.
Yeah.
He would literally slide you and snap the brake and say, all right, come get it. So, that's just part of it. I know winning Turkey Night was really, really special because you grew up racing there. And did I read this right somewhere? Didn't your mom and dad both race sprint cars?
Yeah, they did. So they ran, or my dad started racing sprint cars in 2002. He ran Cruiseman School, and then he wanted to get his own car. So he got his own car, and then just kind of obviously, you know how that works, right? And now they got one, and then my mom wanted to run, and my dad let her drive one night. I don't really know exactly the story. Obviously, I was really little. And then they bought a car the next week, and now they're both racing sprint cars at Ventura. And then in 2006, my dad tells a story great. Unfortunately, he's not around with us anymore, but he tells a story great. He says, every night we went and raced, it cost me a wheel and a Jacob's ladder from your mom. Because she would come off 4 and just smoke the fan. I mean, Ventura's tight anyways. And she'd keep going, wheel bent, ladder folded up. And so he's like, I just felt like she was going to get hurt. So I knew that I couldn't make her quit, so I had to quit too. So they sold everything. But it also worked out that the next year they started racing mini dwarfs for the first time, and I was 7. And so they kind of just turned it over to me, I guess. And they sold their sprint car stuff, and 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 then by the time I could race sprint cars, they were just too expensive to get back into it, right?
Yeah.
Like 2002 wasn't terrible, right?
Yeah.
Not like it is in,
not like
it was in 2014 when I could run a sprint car. So
it's like, here, I can run a sprint car. Dad goes, yeah, it takes $100,000 to do that now.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, especially do it like they ran at Ventura. You didn't need any horsepower, right? They weren't going to Paris. They weren't going to Manzanita. They weren't going to these SCRA races. They were running local VRA with a 360. So, and obviously, if I wanted to do it, I wanted to go run Paris and go do all these, CRA races at the time.
Right. So it comes full circle.
Yeah.
You pick up the win at Ventura at Turkey Night, and like I said, that's just crazy to think that both parents started racing there, and then and when you win, I can just see the emotion. That's something that you don't get in sprint car racing anymore. There's not a whole lot of emotion. There's a few guys that has emotion, but you're one of the guys that I associate with raw emotion.
Yeah.
The talent is crazy. Like, the talent is there, but it's just emotion. Like, you drive with like a chip on your shoulder. And does that come from picking up from California, moving to Indiana, and following the dream? Because there's been so many guys that, Corey Cruzman, you mentioned, he come out here, Brad Sweet, Kyle Larson, the Jeff Gordon effect. Everybody's going to move to Indiana and make it. Like, how hard of a decision is that?
It was tough for sure. Like, I think back to your question of, why I drive with so much emotion, I think it's because I had so many doubters, right? Like, sprint cars were just not in our budget at all. And so Steve Watt, he owned those 81 cars back in California. He used to help my dad when he raced. And obviously he owns the Maxwell Dynos, the Maxwell Industries. And he had cars that he would rent out, right? And I wanted to run a sprint car, and I was working on the boats at the time, and it's like $1,800 a night, and I gave it to him one night, and this is what I want to do, right? And then I raced and fell in love, right? We ran really good. His cars were good too. I mean, it wasn't his cars were really, really good. And then my sister helped me run another race, and anyways, I ended up with 6 sprint car races, but we didn't have anything to show for it, right? It was just not something that we could continue doing. And the last race I ran was Turkey Night, and I met Timez, and I forget how it worked. Maybe I'd came out here to Sprint Week the year before and met Timez, but anyways, at Turkey Night, he's like, man, you should come to Indiana. I'm like, yeah, but I just don't. He's like, well, I got another car. You can live with me, and you can help me with my kids, and we'll do this together, and I'll help you, right? And if you can just come up with a motor, I'll let you run my other car.
Yeah.
And
shout out to
that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
So essentially, he's the guy that got me out here, right? So I did. I packed up my truck. It's funny, Steve Watt, he told me he gave me a 30% of success rate when I left California. 10% that my truck would even make it to California, and 30% that I'd actually be able to continue doing this for more than a little bit of time. So I had my gear back. I had maybe $1,000 to my name, right?
Well, and you could get here from California
a seat and a guy named Jim, and I'd driven to Chili Bowl, I think, on my way to Meserol's, right? And at Chili Bowl, I'm talking around, I just need to find an engine. And Gage Rucker actually ran one of Cruzman's school cars, right? And so his dad was there, and he had some motor that he got in a buyout that didn't even have valve covers on it. It had it was under a bench, completely filthy, right? He didn't even see it. He never seen it. Somebody else picked everything up. They had taken that engine to their shop or whatever, and he had forgotten he even had. He's like, I think I got a 410. He goes, I don't know anything about it. He goes, I got it for $6,000 in a buyout, and he's like, it's all yours. So I went and grabbed it, and I took it to Claxton, and he goes, what is this thing? He goes,
I don't know.
What do you expect me to do with it?
Put valve covers on.
I said, just check it out. I don't have any money. Just check it out. So you can
at least blow the dust off the valve springs for me, right?
Well, the guy, like I said, Jim Rucker hadn't even seen it.
Yeah.
He just said, it's at my buddy's shop. Stop and pick it up on your way. Left Chili Bowl, went and picked it up. Took it to Meserol's, and Thomas is like, wow.
It's bad when you surprise T-Mass.
Yeah. So he had some square valve covers in his shop. We just bolted them on there, cleaned it up, and it ran about 10 nights, 8 nights maybe. 8 or 10 nights. And I actually won my first ever race at Paragon on my 20th birthday, I think, in 2020, with that engine. And then the next night, I crashed my first big crash, right?
Well, because after you won, you knew how to do it. You were going to show everybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then it didn't last long, right? We'd go to Putnamville, the curbs. When I won, it wasn't the rubber. Like, it wasn't.
It don't matter. A win's a win.
Yeah.
It does not make any difference.
Yeah. I think somehow we pulled a 10, so I was supposed to start 10th, and I started on a pole and just rubbered up. And, but anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much how it happened. And then Levi Jones, I don't remember. Oh, I took Levi and Spridge, the USAC guys, fishing like in 2017. So I'd already had a little connection with them, right? We all went to the islands. I took them fishing. We caught a bunch of fish. Came home, fried it up in my mom's house in California during Turkey Night or that time, right? So I had already had a connection with them, and then Levi is like, man, you need to do your own thing. Like, you need to go out on your just like you can't, because I wanted to race a lot.
Yeah.
And Thomas couldn't allow that because
he had
midget racing. Yeah. He had wing stuff. So like on those races, I couldn't race, and like it got to be like frustrating, And it wasn't really him. It was just frustrating, right? So Levi's like, let's find a car. That Jim Rucker, he bought me another engine after that one blew up because he felt bad. We were running good, so he's like, we bought one from Kinzer's and went and grabbed it, and so I had an engine, and Levi helped me find a car. I drove back to California, picked up a Foroller, drove back to Indiana, and I actually parked it at the USAC shop for like an entire year. So anybody that says that the USAC guys only care about their guys, they're wrong, because I wasn't even running any USAC races, but they took care of me like their child.
He's like
their homeless kid.
Yeah, that's the best part to say. Like, they're taking kids off the streets. Man, just park over here, because word was out. They knew you had talent, and eventually you was gonna progress where you're going to be a star on USAC. So they're like, you can use our shop, guy.
Grant, so there's a lot of cool stories. One of them is, and when I started going out of the USAC shop, I got to race all the time. Like, I ran every race that I could. Me and Caleb Kinzer. So Steve Kinzer's sister's son, right? So we became like best friends. He was a little bit younger than me, and we would get in so much trouble together. It was great. But we had a blast. It was just the two of us. We had no business going to some of these races. And there was one night that I had crashed really, really bad and destroyed the car, and I really wanted to go to this race at Charleston, and it was right during the BC 39. So the USAC shop was pretty well just taken up because everybody was going back washing stuff, so I couldn't go there. And I had my trailer and my truck, and I picked up my frame after the BC 39 race is over. So it was like 11 o'clock at night from Joe Devon. And we went to the Rookies Bar and Grill in Indianapolis, and Caleb and I built this thing from 11 o'clock to like 6 in the morning. Like, it was a bare frame. And Grant comes and takes a photo, right? And I'm like, dude, don't laugh at me. He's like, dude, I'm going to show you this in like 4 years and be like, remember this? Remember this? And he's still like, you ask him, he will bring that photo up. Like, he tells that story all the time. So it's super cool because Caleb and I built that thing, and then we went and won my second ever sprint car race the next day. Like, it was good story.
Makes you feel good there when the work pays off.
Yeah, and it was embarrassing. I thought I was just going there. I didn't think it was after the BC 39. I just didn't think everybody was going to go there, and I mean, everybody was at Rookies, and they brought us out like pizzas and drinks and like.
Well, here's the thing about that. You're thinking, I'm just going to race. I'm going to get this fixed. And, they're thinking, man, it's been a long weekend. I just want to get some dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, holy shit, look at this kid over here working his ass off.
Dude,
Hey,
I mean,
have you ever watched Six Pack? Y'all could have done that after the race was over. You could have went around and got all the parts you needed. You need to watch that show.
It's an old movie. It's back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And Kenny Rogers is in it. He's a race car driver, but he's got some kids. And every time they go in the bar, the kids go steal parts off the other drivers' cars for him.
It's pretty awesome.
So you might want to look into it. So when you're on the road, you can buy them drinks. They get drinking, and you just go get what you need.
Yeah. No, they everybody was supportive though, but we were definitely. I mean, the whole parking lot was spread out with my sprint car stuff. Like, it was bad.
That's cool.
Well, now you're here in Indiana. And like I said, you're chasing the dream like every kid did. I grew up watching Thunder, and I seen so many guys that they gravitate to Central Indiana. what is it about Central Indiana that, because honestly, you would think where we're located, you've got Indianapolis, but you don't really have a major city. You're just, racetracks are in the middle of the cornfields everywhere, but like, every racetrack around here is pretty badass.
Yeah. And what's cool is, like, in California, even if they had a race scheduled every week, well, if that race gets rained out or something with the facility, the fairground, I mean, somehow the facility and fairgrounds shut down races all the time there, right? But you don't race that weekend. Here, if we get rained out, I mean, I left my shop, went to head to Paragon, that got rained out, go to Putnamville, that got rained out, and then you end up at Lawrenceburg. Like,
there's plenty. And what really sucks is now that you're here, there was 4 or 5 more tracks that were like that. Years ago, and I gotta tell this story. Like, a lot of people didn't understand. Lincoln Park ran on Thursday and Saturday for a while. Thursday night they ran sprint cars only, and then so you could go Thursday Lincoln Park, Friday Bloomington or Gas City, Saturday you had Putnamville, Paragon, Hobside.
Sunday was always Kokomo.
And Sunday was, and I think Kokomo is going to run a lot more Sunday shows this year.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Well, as we said, we had Pat Sullivan on. Pat Sullivan kind of let the cat out of the bag. He actually even told us that Indiana Sprint Week was opening up at Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many people was listening at the time, but that news was out about 2 months ago. With Indiana Sprint Week, I know that's you never really got to run USAC full time because of finances. You're a local / regional racer. You're a 2-time defending Boss champion. And what's fascinating to me about like the Boss Series, those are totally different style racetracks than what's even here in Indiana.
Yeah.
I mean, you get a big half mile in Florence, or you get a real slow slick Fremont. I mean, you get all kinds of different racetracks. So you can adapt well. And Indiana Sprint Week is when you get to compete against the best guys in the country. And, how important has Indiana Sprint Week been to your career? Just because, your dream is to go USAC racing. How important is that?
So, like, in years past, I've always tried to go other places. But this last year, after we won, like, 18 races and we'd been better, right? I was like, this is the year I'm going to really try to run all of Sprint Week. And we did. I think we ran every Sprint Week, right, except for Hobstadt, right? Yeah. And we qualified in the top 5 every night, except for Terre Haute and Lawrenceburg, which are 2 bigger racetracks, so you need some horsepower, right?
Yeah.
And both, Lawrenceburg, we started 19th and ran 5th, right? Yeah. Like, we were a hard charger. We were really good once it got slick to the fence, right? So, but then the other racetrack, the smaller tracks, when we qualified in the daytime, we were right there. I think we qualified 3rd, 2nd, and, 5th. Like, we were in the top 5. So, like, we're right there, right? Which that whole Sprint Week gave me, like, okay, next year I want to try to do this. And then we went out west with my cars, and we've won almost all of them, except for, I think, Western World, right? And that really was my fault. A lot of that was my fault.
I wasn't going to say that.
Yeah, I ran in the back of RJ on lap 1 and pushed my front axle back about 3 inches, and then I was just hanging on the rest of it, right? Which we still ended up 5th. But that whole swing, like, I just feel like we didn't really do anything to our race cars. Like, they're pretty good right now, and I just feel like that's our next step. So we're really pushing to go to Florida to possibly run the whole USAC thing. We're just kind of, tires are the biggest thing. I don't want to go run a bunch of used tires. Like, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it right. Like, you can go run the used tires with the local stuff, but you can't do that and go try to run in the top 5 in points, right?
At least the right rear. You need at least the right rear every night.
Yeah, at least one right rear per night.
Yeah, one right rear a night.
Which, if you think about it, so they're $350 a tire. You need, realistically, 2 tires per night, right? That's in 50 race series. That's 100 tires. That's $35,000.
Yeah.
Just in tires.
Yeah, so it's $700 in tires for the night, and the race pays $500 to start. So that's the dream. Yeah. That's what we're fighting up against here.
Yeah.
You definitely can't do it without help.
Yeah, living the dream to the fullest.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to talk about, you went off and you ran the Boss Series, and when running those series, you get the big half miles and you get the tracks out there. I pay attention to everything. I don't think I've seen your name And have you done any wing racing at all? Because I don't think I've seen you.
Never.
Okay, because most
Never
guys
even fired a wing car.
It's like because most guys come from the West Coast, they run 360 wing sprint cars, then they transition to 410 non-wing, and then 410 wing. So I pay attention to everything, and like I said, I've never really seen your name. So
no, I really wouldn't even know how to put together a wing post. Like I know none of that, right? Like I'm not, I don't never really worked on a wing car. I've never done anything with wings. But I got a guy that I just ran some non-wing stuff for in Texas named Ben. They're the Coyote Candle cars. Like John Carney ran his stuff. They're typically red 74 cars. Anyways, he built me a super, super nice non-wing car, and we are undefeated with them right now, right? But he's got a wing car with my name on it, and I think we're going to do some wing stuff at the beginning of the year. So
that's cool.
I'm excited.
But as a non-wing guy, go do the wing stuff and make sure your ass comes back.
Yeah. I mean, who knows?
I know where you stay now. I'll drive up here and beat you up if you're going to run the wing stuff.
Yeah.
We don't need to lose no more non-wing guys.
No, but it's hard. I mean, if the opportunity's there,
exactly.
These guys that haven't won a race all year are making more than the top USAC guys.
Right. We talked about that a lot too.
Yeah, we've talked about it, and I hate that because USAC, they were the first sanctioning body on TV.
And they're so much more fun to watch.
Oh yeah.
It's not even in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
Like if I'm busy, I won't even turn on a high limit race, right? Like I'm not like, man, I gotta get home. But like if there's a USAC race on, I'm watching it.
Yeah.
Like that 100%. I'm not at or whatever.
Especially USAC on quarter miles.
Yeah.
Quarter mile, 3/8 mile. When you get to half miles, sometimes I'll say this. Sometimes wing racing on a half mile is better than non-wing. Just because of how much speed you carry, and you got to drive off the right rear so much different on
maybe in person, but like watching film.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I've ever seen a good wing race and been like, man, I'm gonna go back and watch that again. But like there's some non-wing races from like Kokomo Smackdowns and stuff that I'm like, I'm gonna watch this. You know what I mean? Like when you're scrolling through YouTube or whatever, you just type in a race that you enjoy watching.
Well, you need to look up West Memphis, Arkansas, the ditch. And go back and watch the high limit race from there this year.
Was it good?
410 wing sprint cars on the ditch is badass. It's a quarter mile. Well, they say it's a quarter mile. It's closer to a fifth mile, but it's banked like Salem and Winchester.
Yeah.
I mean, it's badass. It's a neat place. But the way the cars drive, like I know a lot of guys drive off the right rear. Some guys drive off the left rear. What do you prefer as far as driving the non-wing sprint car? Because it's all over the place.
I am right rear dominant guy. Like I run more right rear weight than probably 50% of the guys, right? Like I'm not.
Well, you're not gonna like wing sprint cars at all then.
But I feel like, I don't know, I've never driven one, but I feel like you would feel the grip. And like if I don't feel my right rear in an non-wing car, I feel like it just slides, and I'm not gonna go run it hard on the fence. Like I have to feel it the whole time. So turkey night, I forgot to put my right rear bleeder in, right? So and on night one. Yeah. So like when I started to catch Carson, and then he started to pull away from me, we lost all of our right rear grip, obviously, because the right rear is probably at 10 and a half pounds of air, and it's supposed to be at 7, right? Yeah. So like that, you lose all of your feel there. And like as I was losing that, I was like not willing to go run it off in the corner hard because I don't know if it's gonna slide to the fence. Like so I'm cheating it, and like if I can't feel it, I feel like I'm not very good.
Yeah.
Well, it's a comfort zone.
Yeah, it's a comfort thing on any racing is. Yeah. It doesn't matter what it is.
Especially something that's got 900 horsepower and weighs 1,200 pounds.
And you look at it wrong, you'll turn over.
Yeah.
So racing here in Indiana, I don't like asking people because I don't want people to piss off other racetracks and stuff. What do you think Indiana does to the racetracks that California don't do, or vice versa? Like what difference is in the racetracks from the East Coast to the West Coast? Because you're a guy that's ran both.
I mean, Indiana racetracks are definitely slicker, right? The curbs get pretty big, but then the curbs get big in California too. But for whatever reason, the racetracks just don't let it get slick in California. It's like it goes from slick to rubber, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the moisture in the air here because it's humid. Maybe that has something to do with it. The dirt, I don't know, but like in California, if they let it go slick and they don't touch it, it either ends up, rolling around the tires or it rubbers up.
Right.
And out here, it can get polished off and slick, and I love that, right? Like I feel like it just evens the playing field out when it does get like that.
Well, like I tell people this all the time. Like my favorite racetracks, I don't care what racetrack in the country it is. If it's slick and it has a cushion where you can bang against it. If it's slick and you got to tiptoe around the top, it usually kind of sucks a little bit if you don't have anything to lean on. But if it's slick and it's got a cushion, I'm all for it.
Yeah, that's me.
And if it's not going to be slick with a cushion, I want it to be juiced up with hose so you got passing. I don't want it to be juiced up where you just stand on the gas, you know?
Yeah. Like a lot of people don't like Circle City. I didn't for a long time until I was able to kind of figure out how to run it, I guess.
Circle City's produced some really good sprint car races this year.
It does. Like Jake Swanson and I had like the best race there the last time we were there. Like we put each other in bad positions and we get out and laugh about it, right? Because like I'm never gonna crash him. I'm never gonna put him in a position to crash really. And he's not gonna do the same with me. For whatever reason, him and I are really close, but man, every time we race together, whether we're running for 6th or 7th or the win, like we are together. We're
video game slide jobs. Like I got you, man.
And it was a blast. And then he made a mistake on the last lap, which allowed me to win the race. But and that was 100% him because I wasn't even there to slide him. He slid himself and slid right at the fence. And I was able to just sneak by. But Circle City is actually really, really fun and
it's
really cool.
Fun,
when your car's good, it's good too.
When you race with your buddies like that too, and you know what they're going to do, it makes it so much more fun racing.
Then we go out
too.
west, and he's really good at Paris. So for me to beat him at Paris was probably like one of the highlights of my career because Jake Swanson at Paris, he's been doing it for a long time, and he had a really good race car, and I did too. And I just was able to. I was in second, he was leading, so that helped me because I was able to, he didn't know where the line was coming. I was ripping the top and he's rolling around the bottom, which he drove by all of us on the bottom. And I just committed.
Once you do that, you can't leave.
Yeah. So then the restart, I was able just to drive around and he went to slide me and I just snuck by him on the top. Like it was, if he was in second, he wins the race, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, that's I tell people this all the time. Like Circle City is sneaky good.
Yeah.
Like because it gets such a cushion. I don't even understand how it builds up a cushion. Like
I think it's more of just the fence. Like it just ramps up on the fence.
Well, that's what we talked about. Brownstown Speedway in southern Indiana. Mm-hmm. It's wide and it gets really slick, but by the end of the night, it's kind of like at Putmanville they cut a cushion in. It's got a little cushion cut in the top. Well, they don't do this, so the cushion is really good, but then so many people start blasting it, especially like in the
gets off the racetrack.
It gets off the racetrack. I've told people this: if Brownstown Speedway put a wall up. It would be so awesome.
Yeah.
But like a lot of guys say, shut up, don't say that.
I will say about Circle City is it's not that enjoyable to run because you feel like you're going to crash the whole time. First of all, you cannot see a thing when you're behind somebody. I mean, it is so dusty.
Well, it's crummy.
Yeah.
It's really crummy. It throws stuff across the racetrack, which I think helps the racing.
Yeah.
But it's just,
I have fun once I get to the front and I'm able to race with me and one other guy.
Yeah.
And then we get to lap traffic and it is just scary. Yeah. Like I've had cars crash and you cannot even see it. Like the red flag comes out.
They're
there was
still flipping.
One night at Mitchell Mole, I parked next to Mitchell Moles on a red flag and I was like, did you so guy crashed in turn 4. And I drove by it. It was so dusty, I didn't even see him crash or know that somebody crashed. Just the red flag comes out. And I'm looking at the big screen, and I was like, did you even see that we just drove by that crash? He's like, no. We just drove by it. Like, did not see him at all. And I almost hit him. Like,
well, see, I like when you start like 8th at Circle City and watch you drive through that.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there fast because they'll usually take a little
water. He
water.
wants to be in the front. So.
Well, I know that's true. Well, all right. So Eddie and Donna, if you're listening at Circle City, next year when Ricky List comes on a local show, he wants to start on the tail. He said he's going to do a bounty.
I actually love both of them. She is awesome to me. So is he. They're great people. I don't mean that in a bad way. They're just. It is scary because you can't see a thing. But I mean, sprint car racing's scary, and I also love Circle City in the aspect of it is racy and.
Well, it's racy. It's centrally located. It's easy to get to.
If you can see, it's fun.
That's like I love Bloomington Speedway. I'm one of those guys because it gets a monster curve and you can run around slow. If you don't like bouncing off the cushion, that's fine. You can run slow on the bottom, or you can bang the cushion. Like I love Bloomington Speedway, but over the years, Bloomington's car counts kind of dwindled a little bit, and people are saying the racetrack. I'm like, no. Circle City's running on Friday nights. And that place is pretty damn good. So now you're splitting the cars in half. Where when Gas City and Bloomington raced against each other, it didn't really hurt because they were two totally different style racetracks.
Well, I don't know. It seemed like Spiker really didn't care too much about Bloomington because he would book on top of people, and it's like, I think with the Peregrine guys kind of helping out with Bloomington, I don't know if you saw their combined thing. I think they're not going to do that, right? Like, Peregrine tries to not. I mean, you can't not book on top of Putnamville because they run every single week. But like the Friday shows, they should be able to work it out to where they don't run on the same nights 30 miles away from each other.
Well, especially because Circle City only runs like 6 or 8 sprint car races a year anyways. Yeah. So, like, I seen that last year. I was looking, the night that Circle City runs, he's got a $2,500 to win race at Bloomington too. I mean, why don't you bring in the Fast Series that night or have your wing race there that night? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, race. But, who am I to criticize Spiker because he saved and, rejuvenized Peregrine Speedway. He was the one that put the life support
He's done a lot of good things. He's done a lot of good things. And he does give us somewhere to race every single week. But he could have done a better job at, well, especially when you see the car counts dwindling. Obviously, Putnamville's car counts don't dwindle. I mean, so like that, all right, whatever. Yeah, I'm going to run every week. But like, I'm seeing over the last 2 years that sprint cars at Bloomington are dwindling on their car counts. So maybe I would like try to work with Circle City, and the people at Circle City I feel like would have worked with him.
Yeah, well, I think the people at Circle City will work with anybody. They're just like, I was real critical when Eddie Van Meter got Circle City racing. I'll say that because my family grew up in the figure eight world, so I knew Eddie the racer. I didn't know Eddie the promoter. And my first take was a pavement figure eight racer is going to run a dirt track. There's no way in hell this is going to work. Yeah. And I was 100% wrong. And I've even told Eddie that. I said, man, I didn't bash you on the podcast or nothing, but just in my mind, I'm like, this is not going to work. And he's done a hell of a job. I think Eddie and them, and not only just Eddie, I know Jonathan Byrd, I know there's a lot of people involved in that, they love short track racing. Yeah. And when you get people that love short track racing, it's the reason why we do this podcast. And it's and like like a little inside baseball here, I messaged him and said, you want to come on the show? He's like, yeah, great. And I said, all right, just when you get back from California, hit me up, or I'll hit you up. And then he messaged me like, hey, I'm flying in tomorrow, or I'll be back tomorrow. Yeah. I'm like, damn, like, he really wants to do the show because, when you love short track racing, you'll make it work.
My Alexis, she's my girlfriend. She does the T-shirts and all that, but she pretty much accuses me that all I know how to talk about is racing or fishing, right? Yeah. But like,
hey, we get along real good then.
Essentially, that's what I do, right? Like, and if you don't love it, the guys that don't love it, you can tell because they're weekend racers that show up and they aren't there to win, right? Like they're just there because they enjoy it.
They're not putting a car together in a parking lot.
Right. If they crash, they are going to be back in a month, not tomorrow, because they want to race that bad. I mean, I understand funding is some of it too, but if you really, really want it, you can figure it out. Even if you show up with a car that's not, ideal to win, you can still make enough to go to the next race. It's just how bad you want it, right? You might not eat well. You might go to Taco Bell and get order. Yeah.
If I go to Taco Bell, we ain't getting home anytime soon. That stuff kills me.
Really?
Oh my God.
I could eat Taco Bell every single day.
Well, I could eat it.
He could too. But we're stopping at every restaurant.
But it tears me up. It is terrible. Like, it is.
Not me. I can eat it every day.
See, you got that West Coast stomach. You're used to taco. There's no telling what you're eating out there on the West Coast. You're so close to Mexico. No. There's no telling what kind of tacos you got.
I've only been out there one time, but their food was good when I was out there.
Where'd you go in California?
We just went over to Long Beach and up that way and went up seen the trees and stuff. We didn't really I didn't get to go to no races or anything while I was out there.
Weather was nice.
Yeah. We did went to Bakersfield and tried to look at the track from there, but we couldn't see it because it's all fenced in so much you can't see in there.
Yeah, we go watch that in California. Here, everything's just open. Nobody really messes with anything, right? Yeah. California, the racetrack will be gone.
Well, here's what's really funny. So, my wife and I went to Vegas 2 years ago, and we rented a car. We flew to Vegas and we did a whole vacation out there. And we went to California. I wanted to go to see the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, so we went there, and we went to Venice Beach, and we went all the way up and I'm gonna drive all the way up the coast to Ventura, and I want to see Ventura. And of course, when I get there, it's like 8 o'clock at night. Same way, you can't get in the damn place. Like, it's locked up. So when you come in Ventura, you know, you got the buildings there on the left where they got the security shack.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's nobody there, so I parked the rental car, and my wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to go look at the damn racetrack. So I get like halfway through the fence, and there comes this big security guard. What are you doing? I'm like, I want to look at the racetrack. He goes, they race on Saturdays. I'm like, yeah, no shit. I know that, but you know, I'm from Kentucky. I want to see the racetrack. And man, he wouldn't let me back there. I was like, man, what a punk, dude. But
dang it.
So the funny thing was, you know, we drive back through the Sequoia National Forest, and not only did I get to not see Ventura Raceway because it was dark, I didn't see none of the trees. I just seen the treetop. I got back to Vegas as the sun was coming up. I was like, well, there's my trip to California. So, you know, you're hoping to go USAC racing, you know, this year if the funding's right. Guys, if there's anybody that's listening, I would say in the Indiana area, because we got a bunch of listeners up here, but all over. I mean, if somebody in Kentucky, Tennessee wants to sponsor an up-and-coming race car driver that's here and that the records speak for themselves, I mean, 25 feature wins. Hold on, before we go into that, does that ever get old saying, like, 25 feature wins this year? Like, can you imagine that?
Yes, but like if I try to think about it, I almost can't like remember all of it, right? We just raced so much that like even when we would win, we couldn't really celebrate because we raced the next day, right? And they're not like I get it. Dude, I get a lot of slack for like cherry picking or whatever, but like it's tough to win any of these sprint car races.
Oh yeah,
like
I don't think there's any cherry picking.
There's
no, I really don't think so.
I mean, a few maybe, right? Like there's maybe 3 or 4 that like I probably shouldn't have even went, but like I did, but like. When you want to race at Putnamville, you got to beat Ty. You got to beat. Typically, there's a USAC or 2 guys there, guys that run full-time USAC that show up.
Yeah.
Like I laugh at Robert Blue all the time because he gives me so much slack for. There was a race last year, and I don't even. Robert's not a big fan of me, and I don't really care. I actually think it's kind of funny because he always talks. He came up with the Recce Lewis, right? Yeah. And like everyone said, and like. Bro, you have crashed so many people in your career.
The blue dozer.
Like, you have this name for a reason. People have made T-shirts because of this. Like, and he acts like I'm the only person that's ever gotten into anyone, right? Like, or like, it'd be. I told somebody the other day, and because somebody took a picture with me, and they're like, "I'm gonna tag Robert and say that you're here," like joking at somewhere in Indianapolis the other day, and I was like, if somebody like Logan said that to me, I would like. Probably take it to heart a little more because like Logan doesn't crash anybody, right? Like Logan's pretty like he's a good race car driver. It's very clean. Yeah. And like I strive to be that, but like I also want to win, and sometimes it just happens. I've never went into a corner. There's been one time that I went into a corner and like didn't really care, and it was Robert at Circle City because he come off the corner and like right reared my left front. I'm on the brakes, and he's done that so many times, right? Yeah. Like, and he does it to everybody. And like, he'll keep doing it, and he doesn't care. Like, I don't know. So, and I slid him, and he ran into my rear bumper and spun out. And like, I didn't want to spin out. I was hoping maybe he'd hit my rear bumper, we'd keep going, right? Like, just like I slid him clean into one, and he just comes back with his right rear out, just on the gas, and like into my left front. And I get on there, I'm like, dude, like, come on.
Like, cut me a break. I just cut you a break.
Yeah. So. Anyways,
you know how we fix that where we're from, don't you? You just drive in the corner and both of you wreck. Next week they figure it out.
If you don't care to tear your shit up, you know you're going to tear your shit up. And that's the end of it.
If I'm going to go USAC racing, I'll probably try to go talk to him at some point and be like, hey, dude, like, I'll respect you, but like, I get it. I was just some punk kid, and I probably still am in your eyes, but like, I'm now good enough that if you're going to race me like that, I can do the same. Like, you can beat me up off the racetrack, I guess, right? If that makes you feel better. Like, I'm not a fighter, but like, handle it on the racetrack, right? Like, I don't know. So anyways, like, I told him, I said, if somebody like Logan said that, I'd probably take it to heart. But like, when Robert says it, it's like, dude, you crashed 2 guys in one night. One of the guys drop kicked you in the same night. Like,
well, this is what I was saying, because my little nephew just started racing, and my little brother, he's always like, God, he's always wrecking. I said, if you're not wrecking, you're not trying. Yeah. I mean, it's just, you know, you gotta learn where, especially you.
Well, he's like 12 years old.
Yeah.
Well, it also like, people don't realize that, like, when I turned over at, where was it? action track this year, just tipped over at the USAC race.
I want to talk to you about the East Coast swing too.
It had been 42 or 43 nights since I had crashed a race car.
Yeah.
And like, so when people say, "Oh, Ricky's just doing what he does all the time," like, I hadn't crashed in a long time. Like, my crashing to finishing ratio is extremely good now. But they still remember 2 years ago, right? And some guys will just never let that go.
Well, that's the way it's going to be no matter what. They're going to remember the bad stuff, the people that don't like you, you know.
Yeah, like lately we've been replacing parts just because they're wore out, and I didn't not because we crashed them. You know what I mean?
Well, that has a lot to do, and I'll say this: when you started out, you're talking about beg, borrowing, and stealing. When you got to drive the car for more than what the car is actually worth, you're going to tear shit up occasionally.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's just part of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're making a name for yourself, and a lot of people don't understand this. Like, you're staying here in Indiana and trying to race for a living, and the difference between third and second at Kokomo on a Sunday night is a difference between you might be able to eat Texas Roadhouse this week, or you're going to eat Taco Bell. So that's a lot of people don't understand that, and I'm a fan of that. Like, you drive as hard as you can,
and if it's 3,000 to win, probably pay $700 or $800 for second.
Yeah,
like
so it's go time.
A big difference.
Yeah. And $3,000 goes a long way.
Yeah.
$700 is just going to get you back to the track tomorrow night.
Right.
And you're probably running a used record tire because you didn't get the $3,000.
Yeah.
So. And usually when I see the guys like you that do the donuts after the race, they're happy with their hand out the window or whatever. That's because they've worked hard to get there. And they actually show passion. The other guys, a lot of them guys have been handed to them.
Some people think of that as like showboating or cocky, but I probably wouldn't do donuts. It is hard on your race cars.
Yeah.
For myself, I do it more because I'm trying to sell T-shirts.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to go.
The crowd wants a show, right? And like.
Well, as a fan, I'd rather see somebody happy out there winning than the guy gets out of the car and says, "Yeah, we won again."
If I win the race, right, like you're gonna sit in the stands and like watch to see what I'm gonna do, right? Like you're not just gonna this guy. Like when Logan wins, he just kind of pulls in the infield. Like Logan's a great race car driver, and I probably have more respect for him than just about anybody, right? Like he's one of my favorites to watch because he's so silent and he's good at what he does, and you can almost like watch him think about what he's going to do before he does it, right? But he's not that like exciting. Like when Logan wins, he pulls in the infield, just another win, right?
I'm the Triple Crown champ. I'm good. Yeah,
and you wouldn't even really know it because he's so just calm and cool and collected, right? Which that's super super cool. But like as a fan, like I'm gonna wait and watch what Justin does when he wins because he might crash or he might do a donut or smash his NOS can. Like he's exciting.
He's doing Stone Cold.
Same with T-Maz. Everybody turns up the TV when T-Maz gets a microphone in front of him, right?
But there's no telling what he's gonna say.
And that's what people want to see.
Yeah. You're at a position where especially right now where you're the budget that you're on. You've got to sell shirts. That selling shirts is probably just as important as winning races, and
sometimes more.
Sometimes more important.
Yeah.
Did I read this correct? Are you on the same deal? Do you own your cars and you have a guy that owns the engines? Is that still how it's still the same way, right?
Yeah. So Dave Stensland owns the truck and trailer. He owns the shop. He rents the shop. He owns my engines and builds them in his garage, which is pretty impressive.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Super impressive.
Yeah.
So it is cool, like when we can run fourth or third at a USAC show, right? It's like typically like a Kistler, a Ryder, Stanton, and then like a Stensland, right? Like it's just typically the only one in a strong USAC field that the engine's built at the guy's garage, right? So that's pretty cool. But yeah, so I own the race cars 100%, and then obviously like I have help from guys like D's Transport and Morris Farms and Mesilla Valley Transportation. Those guys, like, it takes a lot of people to do this, obviously. But yeah, so I own the race cars and Dave owns all that other stuff.
How many sprint cars? How many cars do you have?
I have like 3 frames right now. And two complete cars.
Two complete cars. Yeah. Let's say if you're going to USAC racing, you're going to need 2 of them.
Yeah. And like I'm going to clean them up a little bit. Probably get some carbon bodies and like spend some money to make them really really nice, because right now they all got steel bolts and they're not like beautiful race cars, right, by any means.
They're fast race cars, and that's all that matters.
I feel like they're very well put together. I've had some good guys teach me how to do this the right way along the way, right? Like KTJ comes to mind. He's been a big part of my career, just guiding me along the way. And he's one of them that actually gives me a lot of crap for doing donuts. He goes, we don't do donuts for less than $5,000 to win.
Yeah.
Like no, it was $5,000 last time, so you're fine.
Yeah.
You're like, no, you don't do donuts.
Yeah.
I'm doing donuts for $700 to win because I want to sell 10 more T-shirts to make another $300.
I did donuts every night and they paid $300 to win when I won. Yes. I never missed a chance to do donuts.
Baloo at Midget Week, when I was running all those Midget Week races, mind you, we ran first and second every night of Midget Week in the sprint car, right? And he's like, on Monday, and this is what I mean. I almost feel like Robert does like me. He just likes to he just picks on me, right? And I'm at Joe Devins. He's like, why are you going here tonight? And I'm like, well, how much does it pay? And I was like, I don't know, $2,000. He's like, oh, I don't race for peanuts. Well, then like Kokomo comes around, he rolls his car. I'm like, I thought you don't race for peanuts. Like,
well, I like Kokomo.
yeah. Well, we're trying something. Like,
yeah. Hey, $2,000 is $2,000.
Right.
I mean, you got to run second in the USAC show to get $2,000.
That is what I have been trying to tell people for 2 years.
Yeah. It's what people don't understand. I mean, especially when you run a local show, and I did this a lot. I justified this when I was racing, a modified. If I look and there's a touring schedule, and if a national touring race, if it pays $1,000 for fifth place, and I got a pretty good shot at going over here and winning this mod race, and it pays $1,000 or $1,200. I'm probably only going to run fifth anyways, at best, if I go and run with the national guys. So why wouldn't I go over here and
even
race for the same amount of money?
If you could win, you're going to need that much just in tires or some. You're going to have to have your cars.
You went out and ran Eastern Storm this year.
Yeah.
First thing I'm going to say about that was 100%. I knew you was going to pull off a USAC win. So Eastern Storm for you may cost you a little bit of money, but it cost me about $300 on USAC bets. I put $50 a night on every single night. I'm like, Ricky Lewis is going to get his big win.
And it cost you $50 a night
I'm like,
watch me
son
race.
of a bitch. All jokes aside.
Eventually you should make your money back, hopefully.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. You was such a long shot. I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna get some money back on this kid, and I might even buy an extra shirt. But it's like, damn, I should have just went out there with him and much money I spent on him. But seriously though, like you went out and you ran Eastern Storm, so you're kind of gradually putting a USAC schedule together.
Yeah.
This year you're talking about going to Florida, and hopefully that.
Well,
works
if I go to Florida, I'm committed the whole year. So if you see me in Florida, I should be at every single race, unless something drastic happens, right? But if I go to Florida, otherwise, like my stuff's in California, so for me to go to Florida is actually a pain in the butt because I got to fly back to California, I got to drive my stuff back to Indiana, put my operation together the right way to go to Florida, and then go to Florida. Like in California, you can get away with having some steel bolts and some heavy stuff on your race cars Well, in
California, you need it with all the hose. You don't look like so. You're going to have to start selling some shirts. I mean, you're not doing your part. You've got to step your game up. He's trying to race, big time for the year. So you're going to have to step your game up.
I didn't get at Circle City.
She did. I didn't.
I made in the feature.
She made more than I would have made winning.
Oh, that's good.
And that actually happens often with her.
Well, that's good. So we're gonna need that consistently, though. You're gonna have to run top 5 every night. He can't be the one doing it every night. We're about an hour into this, and like I said, I told you could talk as long as you want.
I can talk about this all day.
Okay, well, we'll keep going. Like I said, I'm good with this. We'll do it. This is halftime. We'll do part 2. So
Tell them where we live.
What do you mean?
In Indiana.
At the shop.
Live at the shop.
Live at the shop.
Shoot, yeah. Ain't no better place to live.
28-foot trailer. We put a nice bed in there. She's got her clothes hung up on a tire rack currently.
Hey.
Now there's nothing wrong with
I've been
that.
saving my T-shirt money for the last couple of years, so I'm actually looking for a house. But
just get a bigger shop.
I made it homey.
She did. She made it pretty homey.
Yeah, that's good.
Pictures hanging up in there.
Well, okay, let me ask you this, because racing takes tons of sacrifice. And you just said, you live at the shop, and you're staying at a friend's house right now. And whose house is this again?
Hobie. She's known me since I was born, and she worked for Cruiseman for about 15 years, and she's bounced around, hard worker, knows her way around a race car. You can ask almost anybody in the USAC deal that they all know who she is and they would all hire her in a second.
She was T-Maz's tire person, wasn't she?
No, she never worked for T-Maz.
Okay.
She worked for Parker Price Miller.
Okay.
With the Outlaws, yeah.
Well, listen, you need to get some waters in the house there. He's like, man, you need anything to drink? I'm like, no, I'm good. He's like, I'm going to get me a water. And he's like, psych. So, like, he's cool with, you being a gracious host, but I mean, can we get the guy that won 25 features last year at least some water? I mean, damn. He's here parched. He's drinking Coke.
Listen, I'm sleeping on her spare bed, and I'm just happy I got a place to crash. No, and like I said, otherwise you and I drive all the way to Fort Wayne, so I figured this was closer, and not a lot here, so it's pretty open, spacious for us to do what we got to do.
Yeah,
that's cool. So I really appreciate you doing this, and I appreciate your story because I don't think a lot of people really understand. They just, as you talked about, you crashing and you kind of running over people occasionally, not on purpose. It just happened.
Yeah,
that's racing though. I mean,
I don't think you could count on one, maybe one hand, how many people in the 4 years that I've actually crashed that did not finish the race because I crashed them. You know what I mean? Like more people have if I didn't hit the brakes, I would have crashed, or like he got into me, but like me actually crashing somebody. I don't crash.
Well, you got to remember too, you're running 70 something years, 70 something races a year. So that's a lot of races that just anything can happen in.
Yeah, it's just like when people say all the time that Justin crashes them. It's like, no, Justin usually gives you an option. Maybe not much of an option, but you usually have an option.
Yeah, you have a plan B.
Yeah, like I also don't cry when people race me like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like I said with the blue thing, like
that's what we talked about with you and Carson Macedo. That race out there was awesome between you guys. I mean,
and he did a podcast a couple days later, and we were joking because we all went out after the races, and he's like, I said, so man, if I could have got you tonight, I could have been a national hero like that, right? Like,
if you could have wheeled him and put him in the fence,
and that's
you would have not. She would have to worry about selling shirts. They're buying them off.
Well, that's what he said in his interview. He's like, yeah, him and his girlfriend were joking that like if he drives to the side of me, like he's gonna sell more t-shirts than ever before, right? But like, and then I actually texted him. I was like, hey, like, I hope you know what I said on Friday really had nothing to do with Saturday. Like he's like, no, dude. Like he was cool, and that was like close slide job. Ventura's tight. It's like putting 24 cars on a go-kart track, right?
Yeah.
And
he was cool with it. Like
in his defense, when all that was going down, I told Kurt, we talked about it on the show, and who was it out in Pennsylvania that was going to kill him? Danny Dietrich. Danny Dietrich puts on Twitter, like, somebody needs to bust that kid in the and like every night when, of course, he had like 4 incidents, he's like, there it is again, like somebody needs to bust him in the mouth, and I'm like,
do you think anybody actually crashes people on purpose?
Yeah, I know.
Well, that's what I said. I said, listen, he runs a non-wing car 3 times a year.
Yeah.
And he's a little behind the 8 ball. So he's kind of overdriving anyways, because you got to drive a non-wing car harder than you drive a wing car. So he's overdriving. He's got good equipment, and he wants to win. That's just gonna happen.
Yeah.
I mean, the only one that I kind of
the midget one was pretty.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Because the lap car and the sprint car race, that kid could have backed out. He was a lap down, and he gassed it up.
Yeah.
But the midget one, he just kind of ran over him.
Well, and the wing, I don't know, like it. I think a lot of people in the local deal out here in Indy, when a USAC guy comes, they're like, oh, we don't like it when that guy comes because he just crashes everyone. No, he kind of has to win. Like it's just like Carson going and running that. He's putting himself in a position. He runs Outlaws. He doesn't need to go run 360s. He doesn't need to go run midgets or non-wing sprint cars. He's doing it for his fans. He's doing it so he can race in front of his hometown. But when he does that, now he's putting himself on like another level that he has to win. And if he doesn't, he just got beat by some local guy, right? Like, but he's supposedly one of the best race car drivers in the country.
That's the hardest thing to do is when you're already winning, then you got to go somewhere. And they're expecting you to win. Yeah. That makes it hard.
It's like when I go to California, and a lot of people talk down on the California guys, like when I have gotten beat out there, they're like, oh, you got beat by a CRA guy? Like, dude, those guys race those racetracks all the time. They all got good equipment. They've been doing it for a long time. Like, they're pretty good. Yeah, but they don't get a good rap because when they come out to Indy, they struggle.
Well,
but
it's
the racetracks are completely different. Like, completely different.
Yeah. Like, people don't, I don't know how to say this politically correct, but there's a lot of people that don't understand the sport that are fans of the sport.
Yeah.
They look and say, well, Ricky Lewis, he's won 25 races. If he's that good, how come he's not winning USAC races?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the main reason he's not winning USAC races is because he's racing with half of what they got.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
It's not like I haven't beat those guys, right? Like I have when they come to local races. I mean, granted the racetracks are different. You don't qualify. There's a lot of different variables, but like I've beat most of them.
Yeah.
At some point, but obviously not all at once and not at a USAC show. But we're working to get there, right?
You're gonna get there.
Hell yeah.
I think we are.
Yeah, you're gonna get there.
And eventually, there's so many car owners out there. I know you like driving for yourself. I know you like driving for
that's
yourself.
tough.
I know you're a guy and that's the way I was. I'm gonna do it my way. I'm not relying on anybody else. But if the right opportunity comes along, just from a former racer that did it like you did, like. I mean, it would
have to be the right opportunity with the right guys that I feel like I could have a good relationship with, and I'm not just gonna get canned if I struggle a little bit, right? Like, because then you get rid of like. I got so many people in my corner right now that if I did go drive for somebody else, I'd probably lose some of that, right? And then that doesn't work out. Well, now I'm like
you're starting over.
Yeah, and then I like turn my back on them when they've been there. Like we've grown from where we were to where we are now. I don't see why we can't get that little extra, hurdle.
Right. Yeah. But
like,
well, that's what I was gonna say is, it's so challenging. Like racing is tough. People don't realize what goes into it. They don't realize the sacrifices you make. Like Lexi said, you guys are living in the shop. You're sleeping out of a trailer most nights. She's driving the van. Like it's not like you have a big team.
No, it's really
she's driving the van to sell T-shirts while you're racing.
It's me and her that drive everywhere. We have a buddy Mikey that lives with us and stays with us. He's our cowboy guy in all the photos, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so like it's really the three of us that travel all over the place, and we don't. I mean, Dave comes to the races, but he doesn't work in the shop because he's a back doctor, right? So and then Alan, he shows up to the racetrack sometimes and helps us, but like we don't have anybody that goes with us everywhere. So when we're at hotels, it's the three of us, right? Like.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like you make so many sacrifices, and for people to shit on you for something that happened 3 years ago, like as a
crashing all the time.
Yeah, as a fan, like I don't agree with that. Like,
but like you said, a lot of people don't understand, and like I see it all the time. Oh, like when I have crashed and they post it online, they're like, oh, just spoiled rich kid. Like, man, if they only knew, right? Like
spoiled rich kid, you can't even get a bottle of Dasani.
Yeah.
I mean, damn, spoiled rich kid.
You got people who go to the racetrack and they watch the races, but they don't understand anything goes on behind the scenes. I mean, nothing. Well, they don't understand you worked in the garage 5 nights during the week just to get there.
Yeah.
Garage, hell, you worked in the parking lot of the bar.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Parking lot.
No, it's gotten a lot better now. And like I said, now like I am looking to get a house and do it the right way. I feel like I got enough people in line to help me with the race car stuff that I'm able to kind of do a little bit for myself, right? And she's not going to stick around forever if she's got to stay in a trailer, right?
Hose showers is my downfall.
Yeah.
Hose showers.
We have a Planet Fitness membership.
There you go. Hey, we talk about that all the time because we travel a lot, races and stuff. It's like, man, we can always just stop at Planet Fitness and take a shower.
And we get hotels a lot. Like we live in hotels practically, right?
Well, I know the feeling, man.
And I'm cool with the hotel life. Like I actually love hotel beds.
Well, this is are you a Hilton Honors member?
No.
Well, you need to be. Yeah. Because like every 5 nights you stay at a Hilton, they're a little bit more, you get a free night. So if it costs you $30 a night extra, it's still cheaper.
But it's nice hotels.
And it's super nice. And they have breakfast, so it's 2 to 1.
Free breakfast.
You might want to look at the Hilton Honor. My wife does that. We travel and hell, we just went to New York City
for free.
For free.
Really?
The hotel rooms were anyway.
Yeah, we stayed in Hilton Times Square. Immaculate. I mean, it's a 5-star resort. $1,000 a night. We stayed there for free for 2 nights, just because she let her points build up. So if you're staying in hotels that much, you may want to.
We do. We
look into that.
We stay in a lot of hotels.
Yeah.
A lot of hotels.
So as we're going forward, how long do you see yourself doing this? Because I know, like Kurt didn't know this. Kurt's an avid fisherman. Like he fishes tournaments all the time. Ricky Lewis here. he's a boat captain. He does fishing tours and stuff.
Yeah.
He was just talking about fishing. Yeah.
So is it something where, when I'm 50, I'm going to retire, or what's your plan?
I wanted to get my 100-ton captain's license, and I did. So I have that to fall back on, down the road. But my plan, I guess, would be to do this on like 40-ish.
Okay. How old are
Somewhere. I'm 26.
26, okay. Yeah, you got all kinds of time.
So
no, you're just a kid. You're just a baby.
Yeah. So, but I have that to fall back on, right? So whether I live in Florida, California, Michigan, anywhere, like I can use that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I don't want to, like, I respect Dave Darlin, but like he didn't really have anything. He had to race until he couldn't do it. Until he couldn't do anymore, right?
And Dave Darlin is a living, and then it's not just that. It's so many guys that's like that. There's so many guys that came up and chased the NASCAR dream through USAC, and they had to race.
But now, like,
so what is your goal? Like after USAC,
I'm content being like Brady is, right? Like I know Brady does pretty well. He lives very, nice life with his family, with his kids. They are always doing family stuff. They're always, same with Justin, like, nice house, nice. Like they obviously are doing well for themselves. If I can get there, I'd be pretty stoked to do that. And I feel like I wouldn't be dumb with my money, right? Like I would be putting it away so that way I have something to, like I look at T-Mez, and T-Mez has like, he has a lot of fun, but I'm not sure how much he's good at saving, right? Yeah. Like I don't really know his personal, deal, but like I know T-Mez, he'll go buy a car and go beat around on it, and I know and I feel like he's trying now, right? Like with his YouTube thing, he's trying to get something sustainable that he can continue to do when he's done, right? And I know he's helping that kid with the midget stuff. So like he's good enough with everything he does with a race car, whether it's with a wrench or driving it, right? Obviously he doesn't want to race forever, but when he's done, he's building something that he can do, right?
He's building a brain.
Like
building a brain.
Yeah, but like I want to be able to put money away to where I can maybe go do something fun for the last 50 years of my life, and then.
Well, that's Pat Sullivan. When we interviewed Pat Sullivan, he talked about that because he talked about Justin Grant sleeping on his couch when he first came out here, and he said Pat Sullivan's got a degree. He ran a university. He's one of the smartest guys you'll ever meet. And Pat Sullivan was talking about saving and putting it up. He said because especially like Grant, he drives for a car owner now where he's not spending money to race. He's just making money. He's like, make sure you're saving. And I think a lot of kids, especially, they come out here, they're chasing their dream. Like, I'm just going to do this forever.
Or they win a $10,000 race and go blow it because.
I want 10 grand. I'm going to buy me a crotch rocket. What?
Yeah.
I'm like, why would you do that?
And there's stories of T-Mez kind of being like that when he was younger, right? Like he'd go win a race or make some money, and then next thing you know, he'd have a new car. Or you know what I mean? Like, but maybe he's having another kid, so like that's 3 kids, so he's having to think about these things. Right?
We want to be like that guy we seen on the way up here.
Still, him and I actually had like a great time when I lived with him. Like we did a lot of fun things, idiot stuff, but like we were buddies, right? Until we started racing, and then we're just both so competitive, and I feel like we're very similar in some ways, right? Like, so us being together all the time probably wasn't healthy for anybody.
Well, there's very few people in the world that can hang. Like Kurt and I, we race together. Our dads raced together, and our friendship started, and it had nothing to do with us racing. We went into USAC Sprint Week. One night we sit next to each other, we bullshitted, and then the next night we went to another track, and we're both there, and I told him, I said, we need to exchange phone numbers. If we're gonna go to every damn race, let's at least ride together. I mean we live in the same area, and we're driving 2 hours a night by ourselves. Like, let's at least ride together, and that's how this.
Are you guys both married?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Your wives love this. Like they support it.
Oh yeah.
My wife.
Yeah, my wife. I took her. Our first date was at the racetrack, and we've been married 37 years. So it worked out pretty good. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. My wife, her dad raced, and my dad raced, and I was racing at the time, and she thought she knew what racing was because they raced locally, one time a week, and we started dating. Our first race was a North South 100. $50,000 to win, late model race in Florence, and I told her, I said, this is what I do. And she's like, oh yeah, I know, we go to the races. I'm like, no, this is like that first week we were together. I went to the racetrack 4 nights in a row. She's like, Jesus Christ, I didn't realize you do this like this. And we've been together 22 years. So I've been to, like I said, over 300 racetracks, and she's right there at it. So I mean, there's been nights when we've traveled and we've raced in Virginia and we're going to Pennsylvania. She'd wake up at the hotel, talking about hotel life, she'd wake up and she'd get ready in the hotel and we'd go eat breakfast, and we're, sitting at Waffle House, and she'll ask me, what state are we even in? Like, she don't even know what state we're in because, we drove overnight, and I'm like, we're in West Virginia right now. She's like, thought we were going to Pennsylvania. I was like, I've been up for 24 hours. Like, I need a few hours of sleep, Yeah. So that's, if Lexi is, I'm just going to tell you, I don't know y'all's relationship, but if she's willing to live in the shop and sling t-shirts for you, you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's just from somebody that's been up and down the road doing this, it's probably going to work out. Because you would have known right off the bat when you said, hey, there's your closet. And she's like, what's that? That's a tire rack. You would have known right off the bat if she's going to be like, no, this isn't for me. So
Well, she came from a pretty luxurious life up in Michigan, so.
But being with Ricky Lewis, there's no luxury.
There will be. We're working on it.
She said, hey, wait a minute, this guy's from California. I'm going to where it's warm.
And we did. We just got back to
now you're stuck in Indiana looking at a cornfield.
Yeah, it's cold.
This ain't even cold today yet. Y'all wait.
It's like 50 degrees. He's like, it's cold. She's like, I want to go to California for the beach. And he's like, let's go to California. And then she's like, no, we're going to go sledding next week for Christmas. He's like, dude, what's sledding? I don't think you have enough clothes to take with you when you go home from Michigan.
I live by the lake up there, so you got that cold wind.
Oh, yeah.
I hope just for your sake you get some lake effect snow.
We missed.
You get 40 inches of snow overnight just because.
We missed part of our trip last week because of lake effect snow, didn't we, Bobby?
Yeah, we were
going to Niagara Falls to start with.
But we had a detour because they had 60 inches of snow on the expressway. I was like, bro, that's not for me. so we went to Atlantic City.
Yeah, where the drones are now.
Yeah, where all the drones are. Are you got plans on the Chili Bowl this year?
So I did run for Cruz last year. I don't think he's going this year. Like, that's what he kind of said to me a couple weeks ago. So I didn't announce that I wasn't running for him. So I don't know. Midgets or Chili Bowl at least isn't really something that like I've lived to do, right? Like if the right opportunities, like obviously Cruz's car, like the top 3 teams, which are probably never going to call me and ask me to run a midget because I'm not a midget guy, right? So
well, and you're not bringing a big paycheck with you.
Yeah, exactly. And like there, I had a couple people call me and ask, but then they're, at the end of the phone call, it's like, oh, well, if you could help out with fuel and tires and, maybe like $5,000. Like, well, if I'm going to spend $5,000, it's not going to be on a Chili Bowl ride. Right. Yeah. I'm going to spend $5,000 to help me go to Florida and do what I want to do and what I need to do for my career. I can go run 4th at the Chili Bowl, 3rd at the Chili Bowl, and probably even 2nd. I don't think it's going to do anything for my career. Right. Like, people are going to be like, oh, man.
That's the Chili Bowl.
Yeah.
But like, there's also 500 other people that are trying to do that.
Yeah. Guys that are midget guys that have good cars. And they're like, I don't know. I'm not a big Chili Bowl fan because you could spend a lot of money there. It almost bugs me to watch the people that spend $15,000, $20,000 and then get crashed in the heat race. And you're just like, so you just spent $20,000 to run maybe 15 laps by the end of the weekend. You're going to wait till
Saturday's J Main to run.
Yeah. Like, oh my gosh.
Well, see, I love the Chili Bowl as far as a fan aspect. The racing. I mean, as a fan.
And being around the atmosphere, the bar scene afterwards is fun. You meet so many. I've met and done probably more, connected with more people there than anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like,
so, are you going to go to the Chili Bowl and hang out?
We might go. I got to see how much I get done for Florida and just, I don't know. We have a vacation. I've never been to Florida, or I've never been to Mexico, so we just booked a vacation to Mexico.
Okay.
In January. That's over on like the 8th or 7th or something like that. So If it works out, we end up going to Chili Bowl at the end of the week, maybe.
You come to Chili Bowl. Me and my wife will be there this year, so
Right on.
we'll hang out. We'll go get dinner or something.
Yeah.
So she can talk to her and tell her, hey, leave now or stick around. One or the other. So she can let her know how exactly the crazy life of a wife of a racer is.
Lately, I've done a lot more of telling her, you know what you're signing up for, right?
Yeah.
So for Florida, I was like, do you want to go to Florida? She's like, why are you asking me? I'm like, because you have a big...
because you got to sell enough shirts to make sure we can get home from Florida.
No, just having a support system is huge to go do a tour like that, right? Like, you can't really do it by yourself.
No, it's almost impossible.
It is.
Like, the way that you're doing, even on the local racing, it's almost undoable.
Yeah.
Almost.
I can tell you're 26 and not 36.
Yeah.
Because if you're 36, you're like, I don't know about this.
I'm not working that hard.
Yeah. So, but speaking of hard work, I don't know exactly how to say this. For how much work do you do on tires? Because sprint car wise, it is such a tire game, so to speak. Do you cut up a bunch of tires? Or
Oh yeah, so every Bosch race that you win, you get a free right rear tire, and I will take a tire and take it to like Cummins, and I'll trade him for 6 of his, used tires.
Oh yeah.
And then when I get them, I gotta go and I'll grind them and I'll cut them because typically they just kind of bolt them on, right?
Yeah.
They're not really cut. So I'll grind them and I'll cut them. Yeah, I do a lot of work on tires. Just because, especially when you run used tires, you gotta get everything you can out of them, right? You can't just bolt them on.
Well, I seen you at Circle City one night, and you were like, I think Rainbow cars were there. There was a local show. I don't think it was a Boss race. I don't know what it was. It was a local show or something. Midwest Thunder, I think it was. And everybody just kind of boating on tires, and I seen you over cutting and grinding, and I was it's like this kid's working his ass off. And he's by himself, really.
Right.
Places like Circle City, I don't. I mean, there's no reason to run a new tire, right?
No.
Yeah.
You run such low air pressure there because there's no grip, and
you're gonna bounce off the wall, touch sidewall up anyway.
Actually making grip is not really possible. You gotta run against something, whether it's the fence or like. There's a lot of times you just use the backstretch wall just to get into the corner. You know what I mean? Like you're just banging the fence all the way around.
And that's kind of your motto. Let's just bang the fence. Let's throw over the shoulder and see what we got.
Yeah.
I know you said you like the slick, and I've noticed in the last 3 or 4 years your transition of driving styles changed.
Yeah.
You used to be kind of a real twisted up, bend the car, and now I don't know if it's just the tracks, the slickness, or hell, you're 26 and not 22 now. But you kind of drive the car more straight.
Yeah.
And you said you like driving on the right rear, so that's fascinating to me.
Like I don't like driving off the right rear. I just like feeling it. If I can feel it to where I'm almost turning left more than I'm turning right, like I feel like that's when I'm really good, right? Like I respect Logan a lot. I said that earlier, and I think he wins a lot of races because he just keeps his car straighter. He keeps his momentum up. He's very, very good against the curb, and I've watched and studied how he can run a curb so well, right?
Yeah.
And there's times in the race car when I have time to think and I'm like out front or whatever, and I'll just think about like videos and things that I've studied watching him run a cushion, right? And try to just hone in on being good at that because he wins a lot of races running 6 inches off the curb and using it when he needs it, right? He's not.
Don't burn it up till you have to use it.
Well, that's one thing I was going to say because that's what I realized about you because when I first started watching you, I think the first time I seen you was at Pumpmanville, and you're just backing in, banging the cushion, and now everybody, there's guys that run around the bottom, like Matt Westfall. He's going to run around the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you're going to run around the top, but you're not slamming the cushion. You short slide the cushion on entry is what you do. You use the cushion. If somebody shows the nose, you'll just go ahead and get up into the cushion. But if not, you're not abusing your equipment.
Yeah, you also have to like have the right angle when you go up and get, especially a place like Putnamville. You have to get it turned to where.
Yeah, because if you get the right front on it, you're screwed.
Yeah. But like, I also don't like. I try to set my race car up to be good. And Levi Jones told me this when I first got here. You gotta set your race car up to be good 6 inches off the curb. and you'll end up in it. Like, aim for it to be 6 inches off the curb. You aim to be on the curb, you're gonna end up in it and over it, and so like I've taken that to heart.
And Levi Jones knows that by heart because he's put cars out of the racetrack. Through the wall, like literally, I see him go through the catch fence at Twin Cities Raceway Park, knock down like 4 poles, and tore up cars in the staging lane.
He's never given me crap for crashing ever.
Well, no. And he's not going to because he was
He goes, if you're not crashing, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah,
like you got to learn how to crash and lose before you can learn how to win. I think.
Yeah.
And guys that don't, crash, if you're, I don't know how you guys do it in the sprint car world. I
don't know how Logan does it. Yeah, Logan does not crash.
Yeah, like I don't get it because
I've seen him been upside down one time in a sprint car, and that was at Bloomington when he misjudged the curb or whatever. I don't know. He could have had a tire going down for all I know. I don't know, but like he just doesn't crash.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying because as you're setting up, especially like you talk about, you can't see at Circle City, and Putnamville's kind of the same way. Especially late in the summer, you're kind of running your feature at Putnamville as the sun's going down. It's still kind of dusk out, and if they throw rooster tails, like you set the car up and you're backing into the cushion and guys sliding in, you're hitting your brakes. Like I don't understand how you guys do it. Like my dad said one time,
like slow motion in the car. It is like slow motion sometimes.
My dad said one time I took him to Eldora and we're watching. It was 4 Crown, and my dad goes, "This here," because my dad raced late models and street stocks and sportsmen. He's like, "This here's unorganized chaos. This is all this is." He goes, "There's no way this guy's turning in the middle of the straightaway. There's no way he knows where that car's going in 1 and 2." Yeah. That's what my dad said. He's like, "There's no way in hell he knows where that car's going." And I'm like, "Well, he didn't wreck." So we're winding down here. We're almost an hour and 30 minutes into this, and Lexi says she's ready to go eat lunch. So we're gonna go.
Now. I am looking at menus.
See, she's like, I can tell it comes with experience.
Yeah.
Once you're together for 22 years, you're gonna know that look like you got 15 minutes. If we're not eating, I'm gonna rip your head off. So that's coming. But
so I was gonna mention this. My buddy Mikey, right? He is we call him the cowboy, the funniest guy you'll ever meet. Like to listen to, like I wish he could have been here for this because he would have been pure entertainment. People would have listened just for him.
Just let us know. We'll come back.
Yeah,
he talks.
We'll catch up during the season one night.
It's very negative, but it's not at the same time. Like he'll tell you, be like, "Oh yeah, Ricky, he has an app on his phone to find the shittiest motel around every time." He goes, or he'll be sarcastic, be like, "Oh yeah, we stayed at Ricky Lewis Racing, 5-star winningest sprint car driver. We're staying at the Roach Coach." Like, dude, he just It's funny. Like she gets annoyed with how negative he is sometimes, but like it's all pure. Like he loves it. His emotion sometimes, like when we win or whatever, is like it can't be beat. But like it's funny because he's not like the most professional guy, right?
No, trust me, I know that.
Yeah.
But like
he fit right in.
But everybody loves him.
Those unprofessional, professional. That's me. Like I coached high school basketball for 16 years. I can't tell you how many times I went to the Board of Education, had a meeting with parents, faculty administrators. I had to go to a rules meeting once with Kentucky High School Athletic Association because the way I talk to officials. So I'm the most unprofessional professional you'll ever meet. So.
Oh yeah, and he's funny. Like we'll be in staging, and he'll come in and just I'll come in from whatever, and he'll be like, "How about a round of wedge in this thing?" And everyone's just looking at him like, "What is he talking about?" And
like, you want me to twist on this coal over?
And he's so supportive in the aspect of like, whatever I want, that's what we need to do. And he'll have no clue what he's talking about, right? And I'll be like, "Man, like, I feel like we should just like put like a half in the left front." Yeah, that's what we need to do. Yep, that's exactly what we need to do. And I'm like, "Mikey, do you know what we're talking about?" "Nope, but if that's what you think, that's what we're doing." Like
he's like, I want you to do donuts on the front stretch, and I want to be out there hanging out. So if you think we need a half, maybe we need to go 5/8.
So like there'll be other times where like he'll get a couple drinks after the races and be like, "Oh yeah, we just put a turn in the left front. We did," and he'll start talking. He has no clue what he's talking about.
And you know what's really funny is if somebody's around. they're telling their people, hey man, Ricky just put a turn in the left front. Like,
Yeah.
So he's got a torsion bar. What the hell's he gonna turn?
Yeah.
I do this before we get off any show that we do. Where do you see sprint car racing going? And B, we're going to give you a chance to thank your sponsors and thank the people along the way, the journey. So where do you see sprint car racing going? Because you're a local guy that's trying to, progress. Where is sprint car racing going in your mind?
Are we talking wing, non-wing? What do you like?
We're talking whatever you want to talk.
I would say
I'm a non-wing guy.
I would hope that non-wing racing gets a little more airtime, because I feel like it's the best. It's the most pure form of racing. You don't have to have the best race car to win a race. You don't have to have all the money in the world to do it. I feel like USAC's done a good job the last couple of years. Every year the payout's getting better and better. So I would hope that it just continues to get better, right? And then make it sustainable for guys like myself not to want to go wing racing. Like, if you can make $300-400 a year running a non-wing sprint car, awesome, right? But right now we're like, Logan's probably in like the close to 200 range, so it's getting better than it ever. I mean, I think he's made more than anyone ever has in a non-wing sprint car before, except for maybe the year they had the million, right? But yeah, so I think that hopefully that just continues to get better.
Yeah.
Because I hate seeing all this money and time getting poured into the wing stuff, and it's the same guys, right? The same guys that. I guess it's the same guys in non-wing too, but I feel like there's a lot of good non-wing guys locally that could go do it if it made sense.
Because 6 years ago, the only people that knew about Kyle Cummins were people in Southern Indiana, and now he's a national name. So there's guys like that all over the state of Indiana, Ohio, and even in Missouri now. I mean, with the war stuff, there's young racers all over. One of the names that come to mind, to me, is Rylan.
Gray?
Rylan Gray.
He's somebody that if it made sense, he'd be on the national tour right now.
Yeah, because he's a wheel man, and he's got some backing behind him. But that kid can drive a race car. He's good. He's good. He's really good.
We've had a lot of good races together, him and I.
Yeah, he's one kid, and Landon Butler. It's Shane Butler's son. He ran for the American Sprint Car Tour last year, the Steel Block Series, and he's going 410 non-wing racing this year.
I think they need to get rid of the steel blocks.
Well, so I announced for the Steel Block Series.
But so you have like
no. I don't have any ties. This is my what I'm going to say about the Steel Block Series is I don't know how to say this without pissing people off. To the racing community, people call it second fiddle. It's not sprint car racing, so to speak. But for a lot of guys, that's what they've always ran anyways. Yeah. Locally, you know what I'm saying?
But I feel like it just takes a handful of cars away from sprint cars, right?
That's what I was going to get at.
I get, so guys, but there's only 5 of them, so I don't even know what you could do for those guys. Dave Gross that have an old car that just can't compete, right? That's what it should be. But everybody's always going to take it to the limit, right? So you're always going to have I've even thought they've talked about doing $1,500 to win races on random Friday nights. I'm like, well, shoot, I'll just put a steel block in my car. That's not fair to those guys because that's just defeating the purpose. And now they're making it pay enough that it gets guys like myself. Somebody like Thomas would go $1,500 to go race against those cars. I don't know.
Well, that's what.
Or make it to where your car has to be 2006 and older.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to get.
That's what I was thinking too. Something like that.
It probably needs to be an older chassis.
Or no down tubes.
Yeah.
You don't down or whatever. I don't know.
Well, but one thing that I did like this year. This is the first year that I've done it, and I don't know if I'm going to do it next year because I've got a lot of stuff going on. So, and I talked to the series about this. But one thing that I really liked about it was Landon Butler, Aiden Salisbury, they were 15 and 16-year-old kids. And they got to go.
Aiden's good.
Yes. Yeah, they're really good. And they finished first and second in the points. And they got to go race, not a major tour, but they got to get out, travel, race a little bit, and make laps where they're not getting beat up on at Kokomo and Putnamville. So I'm an advocate for getting kids involved. but I don't really know if it's the right way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what it's better than nothing, but I don't know
like
if that's
the
right
D2
answer.
midgets and stuff. That's more of us, because once you step in, I feel like local non-wing sprint car racing at, you find somewhere like Circle City or Putnamville, like we need those guys, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They don't need to be sitting at home because they're waiting for their steel block race. Like,
Right.
So
I feel like that series was put together more for the older guys, right? And or make it like a senior class. Like, I just feel like.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason for
Hey, I'm in.
there's no reason for 20-year-old kids to be running steel blocks when originally it was built for guys like Dave Gross that just want to race. But
I agree with that 100%. Like,
it's turned into
it's
another sprint car series.
Another sprint car series.
A 360 sprint car series is pretty much what it is.
And I know a lot of guys in Wisconsin that run the Wisconsin English series. They come down to Indiana, and the only thing I can say about it, maybe the positive will come out. Like, we get these guys come down to Wisconsin, and they get to run some of these tracks in Indiana, and they're like, "I'm gonna come. That's where I'm gonna go race. It's a 3-hour drive." So,
but then they'd come and just run the steel block races.
Well, but if you only got 15 in a year, it's not gonna be.
Right.
You can get them. I mean, you can still get them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not like the racetracks around here are gonna say, like Kokomo's gonna say, no non-wing sprint cars this week. I'm gonna book the steel blocks. That's not gonna happen. The steel block. A lot of the steel block races are going to Shady Hill tracks that aren't going to run sprint cars anyways.
Which is
so and that's a positive. Because,
but those tracks should run sprint cars.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. That's a positive because once you get that, the fans, the demand will be like, hey, I want to see sprint cars. Let's
You're
get
right.
these sides. So
yeah,
it could go both ways. I'm not I hate dividing up series. I hate dividing up cars, but in a certain sense, I understand why it's there too. But that's for a whole nother show. We could do.
That's for when we bring Mikey on.
Yeah, we'll bring
Mikey talk.
And then, you'd be like, that's when you could say, yeah, I'm not really into that. He's like, yeah, that sucks. I mean,
sounds like he's got your back.
Yeah.
Oh, 100% with everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, Mikey, it's really not that deep. Like,
so how many times have you? It's like, man, I'm feeling Taco Bell, and Lexi's like, I want Wendy's, and he's like, Taco Bell it is. How many times has that happened?
Actually, he's always like, yeah, another fast food restaurant. I expect nothing but the best here at Ricky Lewis Racing. And then I'll make it a big point to be like, yeah, I bought you dinner last night, Mikey. Oh yeah, I forgot McChicken. It was great.
Yeah.
He finally got off his wallet.
Yeah.
I actually love Taco Bell, so.
She's all about Taco Bell all the time. Like, if I say Taco Bell, she's in, which is actually really cool because. Yeah, it could be the opposite, and then I'd be sad.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, you got to have people like that in your corner to make this work.
Yeah.
So, you give a shout out to your sponsors that help you, and to the guys that helped along the way. Like, I know you said you and T-Mez kind of don't, but T-Mez is the one that brought you here.
I have texted him multiple times, been like, hey, like, this just happened or whatever. Like, I thank you for letting me come out. He probably regrets it, but because the guy, so Dave Stensland actually was part of T-Mez for when I got here, and then they split up, and I just kind of happened to be there, right, on my own. And so then Dave started helping me. So I think in his eyes, he feels like I, stepped on his toes there, but it sounds like, obviously there's two sides of your story, but it sounds like there was other things leading to that, right?
Yeah.
Definitely was not me trying to. I actually said no at first when Dave wanted me to run or asked me about running. I forget what it was, and I was like, no, like I don't want Thomas to think, And then they had Ty for a little bit, and then it just kind of like, well, Thomas doesn't like me anyway, so. And it's worked out because Dave has never dreamed of winning this many races. Like, he just wants to race, and him and Thomas won like 9 one year, I think.
Yeah.
At Gas City, and that was like a super cool year. And then I know he won a lot of races with Darlin back in the day with the 41, and so like now he's just like on cloud 9. He loves it. Now he's just ate up. So.
Well, if you're gonna go, this is the time to go. You get a little extra help.
Yeah. So. Dave, obviously, the Morris Farms, he's been with me since I got here. He's taken care of my diesel fuel since I moved to Indiana, so you can't ask for much more than that. So, Mesilla Valley Transportation, D's Transport, who also, they own Paragon Speedway. They've been really, really good to me over the last, before they even owned Paragon. So, it's cool. I think everyone needs to go check out Paragon. They've done a lot with the place. I don't know if you've been there.
Yes. I've been to every racetrack in Indiana.
Have you been there recently?
Yes. I was there last year when 2 minutes got hurt.
The No Way Out.
Yeah, the No Way Out race.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I've been there in about 4 years, and that's what I was telling Pat Sullivan. I was like, holy. Because Paragon was bad. It was on life support, and it's a nice place now.
Yeah, and the people are cool. They just appreciate having, guys come and race, and they'll thank you. So just a quick story about them. There's this kid, James Boyd, who's been running. He's going to be really, really good. He was showing up with a car that was a little sketchy, right? But he drives the hell out of it, and he actually just tore it up, which I was happy because he needed to get out of that thing, get something better. And I told him that. I was like, dude, you're gonna get hurt in that thing. It was sketch. So now he's putting together a better car. He's got shocks and all these things. But anyways, he come to me at Circle City and needed to borrow steering gear, and I loaned him a steering gear, and then I said, hey, are you running tomorrow? And he goes, no, I gotta go home. He's like, I don't got the money to go there, man. Pit passes and this and that. I'm like, so I called Daryl at Paragon. I'm like, hey, dude, I was like, there's this kid who is literally me when I was in 2021. I was like, can we help him with some pit passes if I get him to go to Paragon? He's never been. He'd probably be somebody that would He's like, yeah. He's like, what's his name? So he took down his name. He's like, how many people has he got? I'm like, him and 2 other people. He's like, okay, yeah, we'll take care of him tomorrow, just because it was their first time ever his first time ever going to Paragon. So he goes there. I guess they brought him food. They brought him hot dogs. They just took care of the kid, right? And the kid had no money, and
that's cool.
And then they paid him. At the end of the night, he was stoked because I think he made the show, so he made $350 because they pay really well there at Paragon. So and now he hasn't missed a Paragon race. He's been there every week.
Well, and that's how it happens. I mean, if you take care of people that take care of you, the world in general will be a better place. It's not just a racing game.
It's not like
everything.
It wasn't like I was trying to give out free pit passes, but I was like, hey, this kid's not going to come unless you help him out because he just doesn't have the money.
Yeah.
But that's just how those guys are, and they now they love the kid, right? They're all good buddies, and Daryl's a really good guy, and so is Corey. So I think they're doing a really good job. I'm happy to see USAC races there. That would be another special one if I won my first USAC race at Paragon.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you win your first USAC race, but if you're going to go to Florida, I hope you win away before Paragon.
Hope you win one down. Hope you win it down there.
Because it's going to be hard to win 25 next year if you don't win your first race to Paragon.
Yeah. Well, Paragon's April.
I thought it was in June. Is it in April?
Yeah, April 5th.
Well, hell, then my Paragon's perfect place.
Yeah.
Well, my bad. I'll edit that
I'm
shit
still
out.
going to go to a lot of local races.
Well, we won't count these ones in Florida. We'll just wait till Paragon. But you can go ahead and win them there. But we won't
you
count
win
them
all the ones in Florida. We won't count those in USAC wins.
Ocala's somewhere that could I feel like you could accidentally start on the pole and lead the whole thing, right? Yeah. It's not a very passing place.
You go fast with the D on the backstretch. You burp the throttle going into 1 and 2. You don't get back out of the throttle till you get back to 1 and 2. You haul balls all the way around the racetrack because it kind of arcs out like a D, and if it slicks off, you gotta kind of set yourself up coming off 4.
Yeah.
Because it's a straightaway, but early in the night, once you pass where you pull on the racetrack, you don't lift to where you pull off.
Yeah.
You're on the gas all the way, so you'll be all right there.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm super thankful to do what I'm doing with everyone I got behind me.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, well, we appreciate it. Like I said, we took almost 2 hours of your time.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on, though.
We really appreciate it, and thank you again for coming on.
Appreciate you guys.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That was this week's Deep Dives with Camarillo, California's Ricky Lewis. Hope you guys really enjoyed that interview. It's a really fascinating story. Kid just up and moved to the Midwest to chase his dream. And a lot of people, when you go to the racetrack every week and you go to the racetrack with your family and you see these kids and like Ricky Lewis, so to speak, he wins all the time. And people are like, oh, spoiled. He even said, oh, let's spoiled rich kid. Well, it's far from the truth. I mean, he's living at the race shop, living out of his trailer, and just chasing a dream. And there's a lot to be said about that. The guy just chasing his dream. And that's for people that was involved with the sport. And a lot of times I don't think fans really understand what goes into this, especially like the kids that come from 16, 17, 18-year-old, like Justin Grant when he moved from California to to Indianapolis. You know, he was just out of high school, and you know, you just think about kids, you know, in your family that, let's just say, you know, you got a niece or nephew, you know, hell, I got a couple of nephews that there ain't no way they can uproot across the country at 18 years old and figure stuff out. Hell, they do good where they're at, figuring shit out themselves. So, but Ricky Lewis, us here at the Training Sliders, if you've listened to our show over the year, you've come to know that we're real big fans of Ricky Lewis's, and it's not even the backstory as much as it's just the driving style. He is a kid that drives every race like it's the last race, and that says a lot about a kid that. And now I think by listening to that interview, I think he's really starting to figure out how to put together finishes. Before he was just running fast, and he even admitted he even had times where he's ran over people, but it wasn't on purpose. It was just because the car wasn't as good as it needed to be, and the kid was driving it for all it's worth, and that's something that I can admire. I was a guy that when I raced, I did it, on a budget, and so I understand where he's coming from. There was a lot of nights that we, my wife and I, we slept in Walmart's parking lot in between races. So I totally get it. But yeah, like I said, huge fan of Ricky Lewis here at the Training Sliders podcast. All right, guys, that's it for the week. Like I said, Merry Christmas to everybody. I'm sorry you had to listen to my raspy voice. I'm a little bit under the weather this week, but hopefully be better before here in the next few days before Christmas. So we'll get to go see everybody. Get to go see our family. But Merry Christmas, everybody. Until next time, we'll be Training Sliders.